Hey, good morning, Spectacular Misfits. I'm here with my co-host Byron. Unfortunately, Arlen's not here. He's a good guy. He's got some family commitments. We wish him well. But this is a milestone episode because we have a special guest. We have a very special guest. We aimed for the stratosphere as far as our first guest. And we have an author that's been blowing up all over the place. From the point we booked this author, I've been watching one book signing, library talk, podcast, video interview after another, and I kept thinking, oh, she's still going to show up? But she did. Laura Frost is here, author of Seeking Sasha. Uh, Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining our podcast.
You're welcome. It's so fun to be here. I'm glad you invited me.
Oh, well, we're glad you showed up. Uh, this book sounds very exciting. The existence of this book is maybe 10% of the motivation I spent last month trying to find a job while I was unemployed. It's been on my wish list to purchase. 100 names, one life, 1,000 lies to bind them. It's a psychological suspense novel. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this book is about a woman named Sasha, but she bounces from town to town, changing her name, picking up odd jobs as a way to escape a difficult past. And then she runs face to face into her best friend from childhood. He's now a police officer, so this whole fake life she's built for herself starts to fall apart.
That subject matter really appeals to me because that's kind of how I've lived my life for the last
Right.
15 years.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
feel a lot of people say similar things. They're like, "Oh, I can see myself in this character."
but you were a wildlife biologist, right?
Yeah, I was. Got my degree in environmental sciences and worked in the field for quite a few years. And now I've put that life behind me as I focus on novel writing.
So it's novel writing full time now.
Pretty much full time. I have a busy household. So, I have three teenagers and they take, a fair amount of attention as well. So I say that's my full-time job, and then I squeeze in writing when I can.
I don't know. I have a teenager too. We just ignore each other. But
Yeah.
yeah, kidding. But Laura, what's it like to blow up?
Well, it's funny because in a lot of ways I don't feel like I've blown up, but because every day I'm out there promoting myself, promoting my book. So it still feels like I'm swimming upstream. But then I look at my sales numbers and how many people are reaching out to me who've read the book and who are really loving the book. And it's pretty exciting. I just love watching the journey. It was a long, slow process to get here. So to see the book out in the world and readers loving it and giving me, great feedback and everything, it's pretty fun.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I've been watching from the finish line. I guess I'm like, oh, she won another award. Oops,
Yeah.
accepting something else at another gala. But so you have an audio version that's in production right now.
Yes. So we're just trying to get through some of that, and hopefully within the next couple of months it'll be available, but I don't have a timeline for that yet. But fingers crossed we get it done soon.
Well, looking ahead, have you in your mind cast any famous actors for your character roles when they make a movie?
Uh, yeah, my oldest kid is huge into film, so he knows everything about film, and he's read Seeking Sasha, and so he's already come up with some great casting. He figures Zendaya could be Sasha, and Tom Holland could be Cole. So I think that's a pretty good mix. I think that would work really well.
Yeah, and they
Like
need
a
something. They need something juicy and different.
like a film buff, because I'm a film buff myself too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's huge into film.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Byron, since Arlen's not here, you want to throw some of his questions out?
Bro, for some of his questions, you mean like the three questions, right?
Yeah, but do one and we'll see what she says and then move on to Arlen's next question.
Okay, okay. One of his questions. Um, okay. One of his questions.
Are you scrolling through our chat?
Yeah, yeah, I am scrolling there. Yeah. Can you like show me on you have a board of it. You have a board. Can I see so I can ask one of them?
Byron, it starts out what truly inspired.
Okay, yeah. Which movies? Okay, I find it. Okay, okay. Yeah, I say what's truly inspired you to become an author, Laura? That's my question.
Well, all right. Yeah, that's a great question, and I've had a lot of people ask me that question, and it's been a long journey, as I mentioned before. I've always enjoyed writing, even as a kid. I wrote a lot of short stories and poetry, and I've always thought it would be fun to write a novel, but I never thought of, what I would write about. I didn't know genre. I didn't even know if I would write a kid's book or an adult book. Um, but then, probably about 8 years ago or so, my husband was a police officer at the time, and he was involved in what was potentially a life-threatening situation. So everything turned out good in the end. He was fine, the bad guy was fine. But it really got my mind working around, what if things turned out differently? And the more, I sat with these thoughts, um, my mind sort of came up with a fictional character who actually went through the experience of losing her husband and the decisions she had to make, how she was going to live her life. She had three little kids, and what was her life going to look like as a young widow? And the more her story built in my head, um, the more distracted I got in my regular life. And I'm like, you know what? I need to relieve the pressure. I need to get her out of my head so I can get back to what's important in my life. So I sat down and I started writing her story. And I just kept writing and writing and writing. And that story is massive and it's still sitting in my file in on my laptop waiting for revisions because right now it's such a mess. But it was so therapeutic and it made me fall in love with writing in a whole new way. I fell in love with novel writing, and as I was finishing up the first draft of that, I was inspired to write Seeking Sasha, and so I dove right into Seeking Sasha, and that's the book that's my debut novel that's out in the world now, and I'm just loving novel writing. So, sort of that's my journey of how I got to where I am today, and there's no turning back. I've got all sorts of other novel ideas and working on a sequel to Seeking Sasha right now.
Well, that's a trauma response.
It is in a lot of ways. And yeah, writing that story was super therapeutic and not only to deal with the situation that I had faced, but the writing process uncovered all sorts of things that I didn't even know I had buried inside for years. And I came out of writing that first novel, feeling more confident, feeling much lighter, and feeling more myself than I had been in a very long time. So yeah, writing is super therapeutic.
No, it really is. My process is kind of similar. Of course, I haven't experienced a life or death situation of a loved one like that. Although my brain probably equates my pivotal moments as that similar contrast. Um, but so my degree is in journalism, and I've always enjoyed creative writing. And then I've worked in the mental health field where the writing has to be different from the inverted pyramid, different from creative writing.
Mhm.
Well, they call it now like DAP notes, data action plan. If you're coming, I'm just theorizing. If you're coming from the wildlife biology world, were you writing like scientific papers and then you had to maybe learn how to write creatively? How did you manage to switch to writing character dialogue and building suspense? Like you picked a genre, well, I guess the dramatic event picked it, but you picked a type of book that's not easy to write. There's definitely a measure of skill, but you came from being a scientist, which is a different brain hemisphere. Like, what was that transition like from scientific writing to creative writing and suspense building?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct that I spent years writing scientific papers. And so when I first wrote that big therapeutic thing, um, the story was fantastic, but I had a couple of people read it. My husband read it, my cousin read it, and they loved the story. They said, you've got some skills here. But the more I learned about the writing process and the more I compared that to books that are out in the world, I'm like, you know what? This is very structured sounding. I need to put more emotion into it. I need to color it a bit more. So I started taking online classes. I started going to writing conferences and learning from authors there. And the more time I spent learning about the craft and the more time I spent just practicing those skills, it just sort of, I was able to move from academic writing to creative writing fairly seamlessly. And what really helped was I started writing short stories, and I was able to, in a much smaller space, dive into the creative process and pick apart sentence by sentence and take all these skills I've learned at all the writing courses and conferences I've been to and put it into my works. And then that had translated into my novels. So by the time I got to writing Seeking Sasha, I had adjusted from academic writing to creative writing.
So Byron, what she's talking about is very, very difficult. Not many people could actually do that. And then I still struggle when I sit down to write, whatever is in front of me now that I have work obligations in the psychiatry field again. It's kind of hard to switch back to. Byron, do you have Arlen's next question queued up?
I was thinking I might have to ask one of my, or ask a couple of questions that I typed. It's not the ones been numbers.
Yeah, go for it. What you
I,
got?
I asked one. I thought, yes, I'm gonna go for ask one of my questions, or a couple of them I ask. Okay, Laura. Okay, one of the questions I will ask is okay. Um, um, hmm, well, I'm pretty nervous talking to new people for that. Yeah, new people, whatever, new people. Yeah.
You're doing great though, Byron.
Okay, how powerful reading a novels that made our mind like intelligence more educated can be included? Also, yeah, and like that's my question. How powerful like reading a novel that made our mind like intelligence more educated, like in the issues on language art, like literature or writing topics that could be the best for our future. I would say, yeah.
So
I'm not
how does
quite sure exactly what you're asking.
Okay.
are you asking how reading like develops intelligence, Byron?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, to this day, I don't. Yeah, I feel like I mean, just people don't like to read novels, whatever. They just get lazy. They just like whatever
Mhm.
something is based off an adaptation. You just go read, or they was like watch a TV series or films, but they're not the same to the source material. You don't know if it's gonna be.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you don't know if the novel is gonna be better than the adaptation, or the adaptation will be better than the novel. All that.
Yeah, what I love about novel reading and short story reading is the author presents, their story, but they don't necessarily fill in every single hole. And so the reader gets to imagine what the characters look like and what the setting looks like, even though if it's described a little bit, it's up to the reader to paint these pictures in their head and even come up to with like the sounds of the characters' voices and just a lot of these little details. And so it does work the brain in a different way than watching a TV show or watching a movie. Um, And yeah, just the process of reading, you discover new words and you discover new ways to, every author has their own way of writing, and it just, yeah, it does expand the brain in different ways than films do.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
say
more
this.
creative. Yeah, if we can do
Yes.
writing, screenwriting, yeah, we do
Hmm.
stories, yeah.
Right.
So Byron, I know you and me are comic book fans, and comic books. Like my mom was big on reading. She'd take us, me and my brother, to the library and be like, "Get two books," and I'd come back with two Garfield comic books, and she'd be like, "Okay, keep one and try again." Um, but around fourth grade, there's a lot going on with comic books, like Death of Superman and Batman Nightfall and stuff. And my allowance wouldn't keep up with the number of comics I needed to buy to follow the story. But that's
Well,
when
to
I
this,
discovered that novelizations usually came out as a companion to these comic runs. So I started spending my money on like the Batman Nightfall novelization, because then I could get the same story in a chapter instead of having to buy 50 comics to get to the resolution of Batman, whatever he's got going on. Um, but then, like Laura said, when I did finally manage to get the comics, I'm like, oh, that's not really how I pictured that. And in some instances, I was even like, oh, that went better in my mind. Like I pictured this better than what I actually read in the comic book page. Um,
well, Jason, I see you in the early 1990s. Well, to this day, people like read comics on the internet or watch YouTube videos to look at the panels. That's what they do to this day. Instead of like
Mm.
reading a physical comic from graphic novels or manga, whatever from that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and
that's go
quite
ahead, Laura.
often you hear the question of what's better, the book or the movie, and I'd say 9 times out of 10 people I speak with, they say they prefer the book because they do get to create this imagery themselves, and it is the way that they want to view the story rather than just being fed to them. Now,
Yeah,
I
well,
do
Yeah.
love my movies, but yeah, if you're, it is a different way of consuming a story.
yeah, I mean, like on the issues of books, well, on the topic of books adapted to a film. I mean, there's books that have a lot of pages, like hundreds of pages. I
Hmm.
mean, to make that film be very long. I mean, if there's a series of books, if it's going to have a lot of pages, it'd be great if you have to do this to adapt it to a TV series, as I would say. It's
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah, for sure. That's the thing with adapting books to film is quite often you do have to you do lose part of it because you can't fit everything that's in the book in the movie because there just
yeah,
isn't the time available.
yeah. Also, you can adapt it to a mini series.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's squeeze more in. I think Jurassic Park was the first time I made that comment, like, oh, the book was better, because I remember I was a little kid and you kind of develop a relationship with the book because you can't finish it in the amount of time you would finish a movie, and you carry it around with you. And yeah, you have
Hmm.
a relationship with it, and then you finally see someone else's vision, and you're like, oh, that's a huge departure from what I was just living the last several weeks of commitment to this book.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
became
that's
annoying and telling everybody, oh, this is why the book was better. But
Well, there's like one of the topics I'm saying well, I'm more of a film person, but that's one of the topics that people say like like the novel better than the film or whatever adaptation or like the TV series better than the films because on character development because in the films you have no time for other characters to have other character developments. I mean to adapt to a novel or from a novel or TV series, there's times for character development for that. There is.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like a series of films, some installments. I mean, there's like, they just crample characters, and next installment they just add more characters there. And others, they just like,
Mhm.
whenever the series of films, installments from a franchise, they just like introduce characters in each films or whatever. And rarely is multiple. I think that seems to best to do that, whatever. They're trying to do like a few
Hmm.
series of films. Just like you said, introduce new characters like in each installments, whatever. Yeah. For character
Yeah.
development time. Yeah, for character growth, all that. The characters already
Yeah. No.
introduced.
That's some really good points. Yeah, you do definitely get more opportunity in a novel to develop those characters in a different way that film doesn't necessarily allow.
Laura, is it intimidating at all, or do you have reservations about handing your characters over to a filmmaker if that point comes? Or, I mean, is it appealing, or is it a
Yeah, if I
scary
want,
thought to watch what someone else's interpretation was? And
I mean,
I
if I
think it would be really exciting if that happens one day. And I've even before this book was published, even before I found my publisher, I always had it in my mind that the day that I hand my manuscript over to a publisher is kind of like sending my kids off to college. Like I've done everything I can to raise this book, to put, the put its best foot forward, to give it as much opportunity as possible. But once it goes off to the publisher, it's kind of on its own. And the way the readers interpret the book, the impact it has on readers, and then where the book ends up going, whether it's film or other directions, it's kind of on its own at that point. I can still kind of guide it a little bit, but I've, like years ago, I've come to terms with the fact that this book is kind of going to do its own thing at some point, and I'm okay with that. So if somebody wants to pick up this book for film and adapt the characters, I would love to be inside the boardroom for conversations as to what they're going to do with them. But ultimately, yeah, let's just let this book fly and see what it can do.
that's a great perspective. I've heard separate interviews with like James Cameron and George Lucas when they've sat in the theater for new Terminator movies or new Star Wars movies that they had nothing to do with it. And
Mhm.
they're like, wow, that's a trip to see something that creative now that it's in someone else's hands like that.
Yeah, I bet that would be very surreal. If I would love to have that experience one day, and if it does happen, I can imagine it would be just very interesting.
Well, I have a feeling it will. I mean,
Thank you.
you still got momentum on your side. It's been very exciting to watch.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
gonna Byron, I'm gonna grab one of Arlen's questions just because I think I know why he asked it. Uh,
okay.
Byron and I do our podcast for the love of the game, and so does Arlen, but he's always like, how do we get more views? How do we get more comments? I'm like, well, if you're even asking the question, that's not how you do it. But so he wrote, being an author requires a lot of marketing. Would you say your personality is closer to that of an introvert or an extrovert?
I naturally I am an introvert, but I'm also excited to talk with people. When I do bookstore signing events, for example, I love when people come up to the table and we get into great conversations and I meet people. Um, but my happy place is to be sort of internalize writing my books, um, and not being in the middle of a massive crowd. But it's not black and white. There is a lot of gray in that respect. In that, like I said, I love meeting other people. I love chatting with other people. So it's a nice mix, but I'm not the one to show up at the party and just start, making a scene because I'm much too introverted to be that person.
That really resonates with me when you said your happy space is writing it. Because like when I'm done with a written project, a book or an article, I'm like, okay, that was fun. Now it's over. I feel I've gotten the therapeutic benefits. But in
Hmm.
some ways, if you want people to notice that's actually the beginning of the beginning at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, marketing and promotions definitely, for any writer, you know, puts them outside of what they're used to, isn't necessarily natural to them. And you have to put yourself out there, and you do have to talk to others, and you do have to sometimes step outside your comfort zone. Um, and there's a lot of networking involved, and that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, especially to introverts. But I've learned how to network. I'm much better at it than I was, let's say, 5 years ago, and it has served me well. So I'm always excited to talk to people. I'm excited to promote my book, and I don't like being stagnant. I like to always challenge myself and grow myself as a person, and promotions and marketing definitely pushes me in that direction.
Awesome. Byron, do you have another question?
If I have another question, okay. I mean, I did ask two questions. You have Jason, you asked two, right?
Yeah, I have some questions, but I wanted to see if you had any more.
Um, oh, I gotta think. Um,
Byron, when I make the thumbnails for our videos, like I can never get a an up close shot of your face, but thanks to Laura's visit, now I have quite a few. Byron, let me move on to we wanted to
Hey, I
chat
think
a
I asked
little
one of
bit.
Arlen's questions or something like that. I
Oh,
don't think it's one of his questions.
yeah, go for it.
I think he said that Arlen type says, so books and video games are positives. Individual moves are healthy too. He also typed video games with some exception are actually very good for the brain, trains people to have long attention spans. He said something he typed about that.
About video games. I'm not sure Laura's trying
About
to go
attention
from books
spans,
to video
whatever.
games, but
Yeah, he said something about that.
Well,
I
I
bet
think
her
with social
teenage.
media nowadays, there's attention spans are getting a little bit shorter. And going back to the previous question you asked about how reading novels just kind of taps into that other part of the brain. I think reading novels helps with attention spans, helps grow attention spans because it does take a bit of time investment to read a novel, and yeah, it's not like watching a YouTube short or something like that or a TikTok. You do have to invest yourself into a novel, and with our shortening attention span in society, I think they're really valuable to read more, to keep that attention span a little bit longer than sometimes we have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you do like a take a well, like if you read enough of the pages, then you come back from the future. It's not like you're gonna read the entire novel in one day. I think it's time for you to think about just put a bookmark and then you think about well what do you just read and then
Mhm.
after that reread the next chapter or chapters. I think it's
Yeah,
time
for
to do
sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't just remember everything right away. You read the entire novel in one day. I feel like
Yeah,
it's
no,
gonna make it harder.
for sure. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it is definitely a time investment.
Laura, my I'm so lucky that my son will pick up a book and read it. I messed up. I got my son a cell phone way too early. And the reason I did it was I needed to go away for a work assignment. I was going to get my CBT counseling certification in Chicago. So I bought him a disposable phone so he could talk to me. And my thinking was I would like he's a little kid, he's going to break it. And I'll be back in Tucson. I won't be in Chicago anymore. He'll break it, and that'll be the end of the phone. But man, he once he had that, he really protected it. So I was the jerk that gave his son a phone too early, and I did watch how his attention span shortened. But then, thank goodness, through like obviously, I tried to influence reading, but yeah, I wasn't as powerful as my mom towards me when she was making those endeavors. But he does go. He made the jump from graphic novels to novels, and he goes and he gets the Warhammer series, and like he'll actually sit and read novels and look forward to getting another novel. And I think he's even reread some favorites. So like
Mhm.
it does stretch your attention span, like you mentioned. Do your kids like
Yeah.
to read? Your kids are
Oh
readers
yeah.
too?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They tend to go in spurts. They'll read for a while and then maybe not for a little while, but balancing reading with schoolwork and all their other activities. So, yeah.
Yeah, like the Bridget of Meredith character from the Twilight Zone character. Yeah, it was like there was yeah. He was I started with some nuclear war or whatever, and he broke his glasses. So that's it was an episode of that. And
Yeah,
Oh
I hadn't
right.
seen that one.
Yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, that was one of those careful what you wish for kind of things because now he can't read because he broke his glasses.
Right.
I remember that, Byron.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to pivot just for sake of time out of the craft of writing. And Laura, why are fresh starts appealing to so many people? The idea of a fresh start.
Um, I think life can be challenging at times, and uh, sometimes it seems refreshing to just be able to, start again. You made some mistakes in the past. Okay, let's sort of put that behind us and start fresh and see if we can improve on ourselves or improve our situation or do something to keep ourselves above water. Um, and I've had a ton of fresh starts in my life, and that has trickled into my novel because, the main character, Sasha, she's constantly trying fresh starts. She'll go to a town, change her name, meet people, and then when that life falls apart, she's like, okay, let's try it again. She'll move to another town, make up another name to go by, and try to fit in with a new crowd. And so, yeah, my experiences with fresh starts have definitely influenced this story, and it has resonated with a lot of people. I've had a lot of people at book signing events come up to me and say, yeah, I can see myself in this character for this reason and this reason. So, yeah, it's definitely something that a lot of people can relate to.
Okay.
Totally.
I have a
Go for it, Byron.
question, Laura. Well, okay, this is something we have not discussed about. Since we talk about characters so far, how about if you came up with a lore, Lore, lore? I mean, like I
Yeah,
mean, it's like the Lord of the Rings story by J.R.R. Tolkien, and then there's some reason
right.
it's they make that a trilogy of the Hobbit, which is basically a short story by
Hmm.
Peter Jackson. Like yeah, how creative, how good you are to came up with to do or to do the lore. Yeah, that's something I
Uh,
discussed.
y- the interesting thing with Seeking Sasha is it's kind of cliche to say, but the book sort of wrote itself. I came up with this character I wanted to write, this woman who changes her name and personality as she bounces around, and then I wanted to have the police perspective because my husband used to be a police officer, and I thought it was a very interesting career. And so to sort of take these two very different characters and throw them together, and yeah, the story just sort of snowballed. And the more I got to know the characters, the more invested I became into the quirky lifestyle that Sasha leads. And yes, this whole world, this whole Sasha universe that I've built is really interesting and exciting. And it's opened up opportunities for sequels and offshoot novels and prequels and so I have lots of ideas of how to expand the lore and how to expand the universe and the characters. So yeah, it's just sort of rolled naturally as I kept on writing.
Yeah, it does include spin-offs too, or prequels, all
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Even lore is even hard to do. Just came up with the characters. I mean, if I want to write a story, I think the best way I could do is to come up with the characters, or their
Hmm.
physical appearance, or what they are like. All that character descriptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to come up with characters first and then build the story around the characters.
Yeah.
That's a great question, Byron. I was hoping somebody would say the Seeking Sasha shared universe. Laura said it. Or what are like how about the top three things somebody should consider if they're planning to hit that reset button and aim for a fresh start? What are like three major considerations?
I'd say, excuse me, number one is you are who you are and you can grow and adjust and learn from, you know, lessons you've learned through life. But ultimately, you can't expect that a fresh start is going to completely change everything because ultimately you are still approaching life as the person you are. Um, numbers two and three, I don't know.
That's a
Um,
good point, though. Yeah, I mean, you're basically saying your problems will follow you. If you don't address them, you run from them, and then they followed you to a new environment, but they're
yeah,
still the same. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the heart of Seeking Sasha is she keeps trying to outrun her problems, but she in the end, she ends up having to face them. So yeah, it's fresh starts are valuable, but you have to be smart about them because if you try to completely rewrite everything, it might not work the way you hoped. Baby steps are probably a better way of doing it. See what you want to change about your life, what's not working, and how you can adjust rather than throwing in the towel and trying to start fresh because that's biting off a lot.
It's funny. Laura and Byron, I used to supervise a group home for older teen boys, and it always came up. F this school, change my school, Jason. I want to go to a new school. I want to start a new school. The teachers are out to get me. I don't like any of my classmates. New school. And then of course, if I went through with it, it only took a week before I'm getting the exact same phone calls from the new
Yeah.
administration. But I don't always follow my own advice because I've done fresh starts a number of times. I've slipped out quietly in the middle of the night, and I've also, blown up my whole world. And it's kind of funny. I'm starting a new job, but if you go and it's at an agency where there used to be a lot of agencies that did similar work, and now this agency I joined has rolled up some of the other agencies into itself. It was like the winner on the landscape, last agency standing in this field. So I'm seeing old coworkers who worked at a place I rage quit, and so like my boss will introduce me to somebody, and it'll take them a couple seconds to be like, aren't you the guy who sent a company-wide email that said you were going to slam a beer and we should all have a nice life and we're never going to see you again? And so sometimes, yeah, be careful with your fresh starts because if you do it bombastically, uh, you might have to rebuild some bridges you blew up.
Yeah, you have to, like they say, if you want to write an angry letter or an angry email, sleep on it before you do it because next morning you might have second thoughts and think, okay, now that the rage is past, maybe this is not a smart thing to do. But fresh starts don't necessarily have to come from a place of uh, despair or of something negative. I've had a lot of fresh starts in my life where life is fantastic, everything's going well, but it's like, okay, let's see if I can level up. Let's see if I can challenge myself in new ways. And then move to a new job, move to a new town, move to do something different just to push your own personal limits and see what else you can do.
That's a great point. Look for how do you recognize those opportunities? Some people might just be happy and complacent and don't know it's time to add a fresh start.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with being happy and complacent. It's, a comfortable life is very comfortable and that works really well for a lot of people. But I think that if somebody is maybe having a happy life, but they get to a point where they're not 100% fulfilled anymore, then maybe start looking at, okay, why do I not feel fulfilled? Is it in my work life? Is it in my social life? And let's say it's in your social life. Well, then that's maybe a cue to, try to find some people in your community, join a book club, join a bird watching group or expand your social network some way and push your boundaries that way.
I love it. Byron, what do you think about fresh starts?
Fresh starts.
Yeah, you're job hunting. You're gonna finish college. You got a big fresh start
Oh,
coming. So you got expert here. You can get some
look,
good advice for your fresh start.
look. Maybe I can get. I don't know if I can get a job this summer. Maybe I gotta apply earlier. Like maybe like winter or next summer or whatever. I gotta apply early and look. I'm gonna move out until like next. Well, maybe like next 1 to 2 years, whatever, somewhere around there. I want to be sooner as possible. Yeah. I just need yeah. Look, if it's possible, if I didn't apply a job like this winter, I'll apply next summer. I mean, next summer I will work in this job like well over a year. like the like next summer and next summer after that. Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, it's like it's not when somebody just graduate university right away, graduate university and right away they just move to a different location. It's not like that, you know. Maybe some people have done that, I guess. Maybe I don't know if some or most, but other people haven't done that. Yeah,
Byron, this is what I would recommend. If the lesson you learned this summer was waiting for summer to apply for jobs, and then you're competing with all the other summer job seekers, as you get closer to earning your degree, apply for those jobs you want ahead of time.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I also said winter too. I'll apply early winter. Yeah.
There you go. Laura, before we let you go, there was one more question on Arlen's list. He wanted to know if there's anything you don't like about your career. What is it that you don't like?
That's a really interesting question, and I've actually never had anybody ask me that before. Um, it's easier to say the things I love about it.
Right?
Uh, I guess, I because I need to fit writing into my schedule, um, trying to find the time to do that and balancing it with everything else, rather than having a 9 to 5 job where I have to show up at a particular time. It's all on me. So if I don't show up for myself, if I say, "Oh well, I'll write tomorrow," then I'm only failing myself, and so I have to be accountable to myself, and that can be challenging at times, um, because there's so much else in life going on. And then right now, because Seeking Sasha is still fairly new in the world, I'm heavy into promotions, and that doesn't leave as much time for writing. So yeah, I'd say the part that I don't like is not having as much time for writing as I would love to at this stage. But I know down the road I'll have tons more time for writing. So I just got to get through this period where there's a lot of, life responsibilities and I'm deep into promotions and marketing, which is fun in itself. Um, but yeah, I do need to get back to writing a little bit more regularly.
That's so true. I've experienced that at early in the COVID-19 pandemic when we got to go home. That was when I really like, oh wow, I can just wake up and dedicate a huge chunk of my day to writing. And then when
Yeah.
other responsibilities came back into focus, I was like, man, I really miss when I could just write all day. And then you kind
Hmm.
of have to squeeze it in when you can squeeze it in. But I don't know if you blow up and you've got a team of marketers and some people shouldering all those burdens. I don't know. I guess the possibility of losing some of that tenacity exists too. I mean, so I think that stress isn't in a way good for the process. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think so. And that's the funny thing about being a writer is even if you do have a team behind you, if you have a publisher and PR people and all these other people who are helping you bring your story to the world, so much of it still falls on the author. So you can have the biggest team and you still need to show up for yourself, talk about your book, talk about your writing life. And yeah, so it does take a lot of work. I know it's not the most fun work for a lot of writers. I'm one of the lucky ones that actually really enjoys promotions and marketing. But I also love writing, so I need to balance it and make time for both.
This last question is probably just for me and not even. I don't like when I just write and then I go back and I'm like, okay, now I have to create the dynamic table of contents and I have to pin my chapters to the TOC and so you make your edits and then chapter 7 now moves from page 50 to page 51. Did the table of contents update? Do you have a good system for that? Are you very technical or do you just have good software? I use the free stuff and that always becomes a nightmare. I have in time gotten good at it, but how do you handle the formatting and the gutter space and the page numbers opposite each other?
I'm very fortunate in that I have a publisher who looks after all of that. So I don't have to worry about that. I've heard all sorts of horror stories of exactly what you're talking about, how it's infuriating. And I have not had to do that. So sorry, I can't give you my personal opinion on that one, but
No, no, I was just looking for a magic bullet, but yeah, no. When I do, so Byron, I think we met Laura because when I joined Blue Sky, I just slapped on my profile that I was a writer and an author. I didn't specify self-published, so I think I met a lot of big time people disingenuously who are now like, oh, who's this guy? But it is a very difficult step to have to format all that stuff. It really is an art form in of itself. Anything else, Byron, before we wrap up the episode?
Well, my last questions. Whenever adaptions, there's also going to be remakes and reboots. Which one's like going to be more faithful for the source materials, or which one's going to be better? Like, how would you? I mean, it's going to be multiple remakes and it's going to be multiple reboots on that. Like, yes. Yeah.
yeah, I guess that goes back to what I was saying before about once my book's out in the world, like it's sort of out of my hands in a lot of respects. And if we get to that stage where it is getting refreshes or reboots, yeah, I'd love to be in the boardroom to help steer some of that. But I also fully understand that it might just do its own thing based on, who wants their hands on it and what kind of contracts I get. So right now, the sky's the limit. Let's see what happens and go from there.
Awesome. Well, the author is Laura Frost. The book is Seeking Sasha. LauraFrostWrites.com is the website. Laura, are there any other ways we need to tell people on how to find you, how to acquire the book?
Yeah, the best way, like you said, the website is the best way to find me because there I have links to all my socials. I have a newsletter that readers can sign up for subscriber only content. Um, and I have a list of all the retailers where you can get my book. It's on Amazon. In Canada, you can get it at Indigo. In the States, it's at Barnes and Noble. And there's some other places online you can get the book. So yeah, if you just head to laurafrostwrites.com, all that information is there.
Okay, great. Everybody go to laurafrostwrites.com. I'll put the link in the video description. Laura, we can't thank you enough for being our first guest. This was huge for us. You're a
Ah,
great
you're
sport.
welcome.
Yeah, you
Yeah, it
might.
was a lot of fun. Thank you
Yeah,
for
you can
inviting
find her
me.
Bluesky. I don't know. I don't know if you could find her on on Meta like Facebook and Instagram or X or any of those stuff.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
think
I've
she's
I've
got
got a lot of socials. I'm on
Yeah.
X, Facebook, Instagram, Bluesky, Threads, TikTok, YouTube. I'm getting a LinkedIn account soon. Yeah.
all right. And she just posted a cool picture of a snake. She
Oh
flung
yeah.
a snake out of her garden,
Oh yeah.
returned it to nature.
Yeah, if you're on my socials, you'll see a nice mix of writing, baking, and nature stuff. Because, yeah, I'm still, even though I don't work as a wildlife biologist, I'm still deeply invested in bird watching and snake wrangling. So,
I love it. All right. Well, thanks again.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Enjoy the
also.
rest of your day. Thank you, Byron.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
too.
All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Okay.